They mocked me at my own reunion, until the helicopter landed. My name is Clara Vance, and by the time I walked back into that reunion ballroom, I'd already lived through things most people only see in classified reports. But in that moment, in that place, I wasn't a soldier, a strategist, or a general. I was just the daughter no one wanted to claim. The Aspen Grove Hotel glittered like a shrine to the people who had been chosen, the people who fit the mold. As the valet took my keys, barely looking at me, I pulled my coat tighter around the navy sheath dress I'd worn once before, the one I thought might help me blend in. My heels clicked against polished marble when I stepped through the wide ballroom doors, and every laugh I heard ricocheted like a reminder. This wasn't my world anymore. Maybe it never had been. Near the front, I spotted my parents, Richard and Elaine, planted right where they always loved to be, center of attention, surrounded by people nodding at their stories. My younger brother Ethan stood beside them, champagne flute in hand, flashing the polished smile he'd been practicing since childhood. On the alumni wall, there he was in frame after frame, valedictorian, Harvard grad, venture capitalist. Beside him, my parents beamed as if they had sculpted him out of marble. I searched for myself. Not one photograph. Not one caption. As though Clara Vance had never set foot in Jefferson High, never been class president, never chaired the orchestra, never led Model UN. My life was gone from their version of history, erased so clean it almost convinced me I'd imagined it. Then Elaine's eyes landed on me. Her smile faltered, just a fraction. "Oh," she said, like I was a stranger who had wandered in off the street. "You came." My father's gaze brushed across me, and then slid away like I was nothing more than a misplaced coat. No embrace, no "you look beautiful, no how have you been." Ethan didn't even bother glancing my way. He was too busy soaking in the spotlight. Someone handed my mother another glass of wine. She took it, already turning back to the circle of women laughing at her jokes. I stood there a beat too long, waiting for what? Recognition? An invitation to walk with them? It didn't come. So I made my way through the glittering tables, past names on gold cards, senators, CEOs, surgeons, and found mine near the exit, Clara Vance. No title, no rank, no mention of what I'd given half my life to. Just a sunken chair with a missing centerpiece, like even the table knew I didn't belong. I sat, the clink of glassware and hum of chatter rising around me, my family's laughter rolling across the room like thunder. It wasn't the first time I'd been invisible to them. But that night, under those chandeliers, it hit harder. I wasn't just forgotten. I'd been replaced. The ballroom pulsed with noise the moment I stepped farther in. Glasses clinked against each other, and the fizz of champagne rose like steam in the air. Every corner of the room hummed with stories of promotions, weddings, awards. Each one delivered louder than the last, as if volume alone proved success. Golden light from the chandeliers spilled across polished tables stacked with untouched desserts, and the smell of butter and wine mixed with expensive perfume. I didn't need to look long to find them. My parents were stationed at the center of it all, standing close enough to Ethan that anyone passing by couldn't mistake the lineup. Richard leaned in with both hands clasped behind his back, nodding while Ethan rattled off some story that had the circle of men around him chuckling. Elaine tilted her head toward him, every inch the proud mother, her hand grazing his sleeve each time she added a comment. Their smiles shone brighter than the ballroom lights, as if the three of them together completed the picture. The wall behind them told the same story. A neat gallery of framed photographs stretched in rows. Sports teams, prom groups, commencement shots, professional headshots clipped from magazines. Ethan's face appeared again and again, captioned with words like valedictorian and Harvard. He looked frozen in time, always center frame, always celebrated. I scanned for my own. Nothing. Not a single space carried my name or face. It was as if I had never walked those halls, never worn the same cap and gown, never existed. Elaine turned her head just enough to catch me across the room. Her lips tightened into something that barely passed for a smile. "Oh," she said, not stepping closer, not beckoning me in. "You came?" The words dropped between us like a misplaced invitation, sharp enough to sting yet casual enough that no one else noticed. A few people around her glanced at me, then quickly turned back toward Ethan, as though the moment had ended before it began. I swallowed, steadying myself, and made my way through the maze of tables. Names printed in heavy gold letters rested on every place card. Senator, doctor, professor, partner. My card waited at the very edge of the room. No decoration, no embellishment, just black ink on plain stock. The table itself looked like an afterthought, pushed near the doors with fewer chairs and no centerpiece. A wilted napkin sat where a vase should have been. I lowered myself into the sunken cushion, alone, the noise of celebration swelling and bending around me. From that spot I could still hear my parents laughing, their voices carrying easily over the music and the chatter. Ethan's name surfaced again and again in their conversations, like a bell rung on repeat. My own was never spoken. The isolation pressed closer than the walls. I wasn't only set apart from the crowd. I had been placed outside the frame entirely, tucked where no one would think to look. Melissa Trent slid into the chair beside me without ceremony, her phone gripped in both hands. She didn't smile the way others had that night. Her expression carried the weight of something unsaid. Without a word, she unlocked the screen and angled it toward me. An old email glowed against the glass, the date stamped 15 years back. The subject line read, "Removal request, Clara Vance." My breath caught before I even read the body. Given Clara's decision to pursue an alternative career path, we believe her inclusion in the upcoming alumni honor roll would cause confusion regarding our family's values and narrative. Please ensure her name is omitted from any recognition moving forward. The sender's name was clear at the bottom, Richard Vance. My father. Melissa hesitated, her finger hovering, then swiped once more. A second message appeared, addressed to a military nomination board. On behalf of my daughter, Clara Vance, I respectfully request her Medal of Honor consideration be withdrawn. She has expressed the desire for privacy and would not want further attention. We trust you will honor this request. Elaine Vance. My mother. The room seemed to tilt sideways. The crowd's laughter muffled until it felt like I was underwater. I blinked, reread each word, and still couldn't reconcile them with the faces I'd grown up with. They hadn't merely overlooked me. They hadn't forgotten. They had written the narrative themselves, removing me piece by piece, stripping away each moment I had fought for, each sacrifice that had nearly broken me. To them, my service wasn't honorable, it was inconvenient. An obstacle to the perfect family portrait they wanted the world to see. Melissa placed the phone flat on the table, her lips pressed tight, as if speaking would only bruise the wound deeper. My pulse hammered while the truth settled in. Richard hadn't been indifferent. Elaine hadn't been detached. They had acted. Deliberately. Together. My record hadn't disappeared by chance. It had been erased by design. Dinner plates clattered as servers weaved through the aisles, refilling glasses and setting down dishes that nobody seemed to touch. The hum of voices swelled until the MC's microphone cracked once, drawing the room to attention. He grinned, leaning into the spotlight with the ease of someone who never lost his high school theater habits. "Let's hear it for the class of 2003, he called, raising his glass. Cheers scattered across the room, silverware tapping against crystal. He paused, his smile widening. "So tell me, did anyone here end up a general?" The question landed like a spark tossed into dry grass. My chest tightened, though I didn't flinch. I didn't breathe. I waited. From the front table, Richard's voice rang out before anyone else could answer. Loud, deliberate, carrying clear across the ballroom. "If my daughter's a general, then I'm a ballerina." Laughter burst like a wave. Forks clinked against plates. Someone even clapped the table in delight. I felt the sound crawl over my skin. Elaine didn't let the noise settle before she chimed in, swirling her wine as if toasting her own cleverness. "She probably peels potatoes somewhere on a base," she said lightly, her words sliding smooth as glass but sharper than steel. The laughter doubled, fuller this time, easy and unrestrained. It rolled through the crowd without hesitation, feeding on itself until even the DJ at the back covered his mouth to hide a grin. I sat motionless, back straight, eyes fixed on the rim of my untouched glass. Years of training locked my body in place, every muscle holding fast against the impact. Outwardly, I was stone. Inside, fractures spread like lightning through glass, silent but undeniable. Their voices faded into another round of chatter, but the sting lingered in my bones. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I let the stillness hold me together while everything else splintered. The lights dimmed, and a hush moved over the ballroom. A projector whirred, casting a bright rectangle across the screen at the front. Soft piano music began, the kind chosen to tug at nostalgia. Faces lit up in the glow as the first images rolled by. Chubby infants wrapped in blankets, toothless grins, awkward middle school braces. Applause and laughter rippled when Ethan's childhood photos appeared. There he was with frosting smeared on his cheeks, holding up a spelling bee trophy, standing on the football field with his arm raised in triumph. Each slide lingered just long enough for the crowd to cheer his name, then moved to the next accomplishment. Prom photos followed, Ethan in a tuxedo too polished for his age, his date sparkling on his arm. Then caps and gowns, mortarboards frozen midair. The screen filled again and again with his smile. My chest tightened as the sequence continued without pause. Entire chapters of our class's history played out in color, yet I was nowhere. Not in orchestra, not in debate, not even in the wide shots of graduation rows. It was as if the camera lens itself had been instructed to avoid me. Then, almost by accident, my face flickered for half a second. A group picture from Model UN. I was barely visible, standing near the back, blurred by the focus on those in the front row. The slide didn't hold. It passed quickly, swallowed by another image of Ethan, this time shaking hands with the principal. From behind me came a low murmur, casual, careless. Didn't she drop out right after that? The voice wasn't directed at me, not meant for my ears, but the words pierced sharper than if they'd been shouted. The slideshow pressed on, showing more of Ethan, each photo framed like a medal, every cheer reinforcing the story. My name never surfaced. My presence had been trimmed, edited, almost erased. And in that moment, I understood it wasn't neglect. It wasn't oversight. This was deliberate, a narrative rewritten until the version of me that once existed no longer fit their design. The air inside felt heavy, too thick to breathe, so I slipped through the side doors and onto the balcony. Cold night wind rushed against my face, sharp enough to sting but cleaner than the staleness I'd left behind. Below, laughter from the ballroom spilled through the glass, muffled but constant, like a party I was never meant to join. I gripped the railing, knuckles pale, the ache in my chest dulled not by rage but by something colder, hollower. Numbness spread where anger should have lived. My phone vibrated in my hand. A single notification pulsed across the dark screen, encrypted seal flashing at the header. The message carried no sender name, just a string of code I knew by heart. Project Merlin. Escalation confirmed. Threat level rising. The night around me seemed to sharpen. The music from inside dulled further, replaced by the low hum of urgency I had trained myself to hear. I turned from the railing, stepping back into the hotel's quiet corridor. My heels echoed against the tile as I headed for the suite upstairs, each step measured, precise. Once inside, I locked the door and pulled the curtains shut. The room fell into muted shadow. From the closet, I dragged out a black case, heavier than it looked, its latches requiring more than a key. My thumbprint, my voice, the scan of my eye. A soft click, then the seal released. The lid opened with a hiss of air, revealing polished steel and dark fabric. My uniform lay folded with meticulous care, insignia gleaming in the dim light. Beside it, the portable Intel board flickered alive, maps and signals crawling across the display, threads of a conflict invisible to most yet very real. I stood there, staring down at the symbols of another life, one that demanded everything from me while asking for no applause. In that quiet, it was clear. Whatever role I held in that ballroom, whatever story my family had spun, it meant nothing here. The world still counted on me, even if they never would. The lights brightened again as I re-entered the ballroom, the chatter still rolling as if nothing outside those walls could touch it. The MC lifted his glass, his voice booming through the microphone with the ease of someone who had waited all night for this moment. "Let's raise a toast to the Vance family," he declared, pausing for dramatic effect. "And to their shining son, Ethan." Applause erupted, silverware striking against glasses in a bright clatter. Ethan leaned back in his chair, basking in it, while my parents wore matching smiles wide enough to light the room. Then a sound cut through it, low at first, a deep vibration that made the chandeliers quiver. Forks stilled midair, heads tilted upward. The hum thickened, a steady whump-whump that grew louder with each beat, rattling the windows and sending napkins trembling across the tables. Someone gasped. Another voice shouted, "What is that?" Guests scrambled toward the glass doors, phones halfway raised before hesitation froze them. Outside, lights swept across the lawn as a black helicopter descended, its rotors stirring the air into chaos. The grass flattened under the storm it carried, the machine lowering with practiced precision. The ballroom doors blew open with a rush of wind that scattered programs across the floor. Two figures stepped inside, boots striking marble in hard rhythm. Their uniforms were sharp, creases exact, presence undeniable. At their lead was Colonel Daniel Ellison, eyes scanning the room with surgical focus until they locked on me. The crowd fell into stunned silence as he crossed the space, passing senators, executives, and my father's wide-eyed circle without pause. He stopped directly in front of my chair, posture rigid, and raised his hand in a crisp salute. "Lieutenant General Vance, ma'am," his voice carried clear and unshaken. "The Pentagon requires your immediate presence." Every whisper in the room collapsed into silence. All eyes were on me. Gasps ripple through the room as I step forward. Conversations freeze mid-sentence. Glasses clink, forgotten. All eyes turn to me, and I feel their weight pressing down, heavy and intense. The reporter, holding a printed email, gestures toward me. "Richard and Elaine requested Clara's name be removed from the alumni wall," she reads slowly. I hear the words like a bell tolling, echoing in the sudden silence. My stomach tightens, but I don't flinch. I take a deep breath, steadying myself. My hands rest on the table before me, fingers spread, grounding me. I look directly at Richard and Elaine, seeing through their strained smiles, their attempts to look composed. "You didn't just reject me," I say, my voice firm, cutting through the murmurs. "You tried to erase me." I feel the room's energy shift. People gasp again. Some cover their mouths. Others exchange quick, stunned glances. The tension is palpable, pressing against me and everyone else. Richard opens his mouth, stammering, searching for words that won't come. Elaine lifts a hand, forcing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. I meet her gaze, unflinching. "You don't get to speak now," I continue, each word deliberate. The crowd leans closer. Phones hover, recording. Every heartbeat seems amplified in the sudden stillness. I take a step closer to them, letting my presence fill the space. Silence follows me. All the dinners you pretended were celebrations, the congratulations you forced with empty smiles. It was never about me. It was about controlling the story. Whispers ripple across the crowd. Some glance toward the alumni wall, where names shine in brass. The reporter places the email in front of them. I watch the words, impossible to ignore, and feel a sense of justice settling in. "You can't rewrite history," I say, letting the words hang. "You can't choose who gets remembered and who gets forgotten. You failed. I remember. Others remember. And now everyone knows." Richard bows his head. Elaine's shoulders slump. I don't need them to speak. Their silence says everything. I feel the satisfaction of truth being heard, of lies finally exposed. I turn slowly, letting the crowd take me in. I see astonishment, empathy, even admiration in some faces. I walk toward the exit, my steps deliberate. Each glance back reminds them. I am unbroken, unbowed, undeniable. The hall, once filled with chatter and laughter, now vibrates with the aftershock of truth. Richard and Elaine remain silent, weighed down by the consequences of their actions. I reach the doors, pushing them open, feeling the cool air hit my face. I step out and pause, looking back one last time. The doors close behind me. The room is quiet, catching its breath, but the impact of what just happened lingers. I spoke the truth. I reclaimed my place. And no one will ever forget it. I close the folder with a soft snap, feeling the weight of every hidden truth pressed inside. My shoulders lift, posture stiffening, a quiet resolve settling through me. I step forward, each movement deliberate, measured, unflinching. The room seems to pause, the air thick with anticipation, my family frozen in place. Whispers rise like a wave. "She's a general?" Someone mutters, disbelief threading their voice. Another adds, "They lied about her?" Their astonishment washes over me, but I don't break my stride. I meet no one's eyes, letting the moment speak louder than words ever could. Ethan sits there, caught mid-motion, expression collapsing. The pedestal they built him on crumbles visibly in that instant. I can feel his shock, the slow unraveling of every illusion he ever held about control. His silence is sharp, almost painful, cutting deeper than any argument ever could. I take another step, hearing the soft shuffle of guests' shoes, the stuttered murmurs of disbelief. They can't look away. They can't interrupt this tide that I've become. The walls, once familiar, now seem smaller, closing around the weight of revelation, the exposure of everything they thought they knew. The doors loom ahead, a gateway to freedom, to distance, to clarity. I move toward them, pulling the air into my lungs, steadying the rhythm of my heartbeat. Every step echoes determination. My file, clasped firmly in one hand, is no longer just paper. It is proof, declaration, assertion of a truth they tried to bury. Guests shift uneasily, leaning toward one another, voices hushed. I sense their curiosity, tinged with awe. They don't understand the full scope yet, but the tremor of recognition is there. I don't wait for validation. I don't seek approval. The only thing I claim in this moment is my own agency. I reach the helicopter pad. The engines roar to life, wind whipping around me. The noise overtakes the faint applause that still struggles to form behind me, hollow and impotent. The sound is swallowed by the rush of blades, the inevitability of departure. I step aboard, feet steady despite the turbulence, letting the vibrations travel through me. I glance once at the ballroom, a final acknowledgement of what is left behind. Stunned faces, whispered questions, disbelief hanging thick in the air. They will talk. They will speculate. But I will not wait for their reckoning. As the helicopter lifts, the cityscape stretches beneath me, sprawling and indifferent. Wind tears at my hair, howling against the frame, carrying away the remnants of expectations, doubts, and every attempt to diminish me. I lean slightly into the motion, embracing the liberation that only distance can offer. Ethan's stare lingers in my memory, frozen and uncomprehending. I let it be. His pedestal is gone. My truth is intact. The air is thick with momentum, spinning me forward, leaving nothing behind but revelation and my own unwavering certainty. The ground falls away, the night expanding around me, and I realize I am untouchable in this moment, defined only by my choices, my achievements, my clarity. The whispers fade into insignificance. The noise becomes wind. I am moving. I am free. The morning is quiet, sunlight spilling through the windows. I stand before the podium as the president presents me with the Medal of Honor. The weight of it is steady in my hands, a recognition of work that was never seen, missions completed in silence, decisions made when no one was watching. Elaine and Richard sit in the audience, stiff and awkward. I don't look at them. Their disapproval, their attempts to control my story, mean nothing now. I am no longer seeking their validation. After the ceremony, I walk through my high school's Hall of Legacy. The hallway feels familiar yet different, calm and still. My eyes settle on my name, restored and unchanging. Clara Vance, served in silence, led with strength. I feel a quiet sense of closure. The recognition is personal. It doesn't need applause or fanfare. A young cadet approaches hesitantly. "You're the reason I enlisted," he says softly. I nod once, acknowledging him without a word. His gratitude carries a weight of understanding I don't need my parents to give me. I take a slow breath and look around the hall, reading names etched alongside mine. Each one tells a story of effort and commitment, often invisible. I feel the quiet pride of knowing that my work mattered, even if it went unnoticed for years. No one cheers. No one claps. There is only the steady rhythm of footsteps on polished floors and the murmur of voices in distant rooms. It feels honest. It feels right. I step away from the wall, leaving the young cadet with his thoughts, and I realize how much of my strength comes from silence. Some betrayals echo without words, leaving wounds unseen. But sometimes the quietest choices, the decisions made alone, can leave the deepest impact. I walk out of the hall, letting the light touch my face. I don't need recognition from anyone who doubted me. The work, the resolve, the integrity, it all remains. And now, the legacy I've built in silence stands on its own. Some betrayals echo in silence. And sometimes, silence can shake the sky louder than any scream.